Fortune. Welcome to my YouTube video for our American Rebellion distance learning syllabus. This is going to be a video you're going to watch while going over the distance learning syllabus so that you can complete your syllabus quiz at the end of this video so I know that you've read it. So, welcome. This is American Rebellion, a history of rock and roll. Um, Absolute passion of mine. I love rock and roll. I've been loving rock and roll since I was 8 years old. And I came across Pink Floyd at daycare on a jukebox, so like a really trashy daycare. That was the cheapest one my parents can find. And for a quarter, I could listen to Another Brick in the Wall, which is a fantastic Pink Floyd song. I was in second grade, and I fell in love with rock and roll. Then now I'm almost 30 years old. We'll be 30 in November, and rock and roll is just as important to me today, probably more because I make my money talking about it. So this course is an American story. The course is about outlaws, citizens, artists, activists, and anything in between. We will look at music and the stories behind the songs. We will journey through a sonic highway that unveils a story about America and a history of its struggle and prosperity and its shortcomings. American Rebellion is split into 4 parts. Each part pushes you to go deeper into the material and challenges you to think critically about new and old concepts about what it means to be an American. Most of the material in this course takes place from 1940s to 2010s. It takes place in America and around the globe. It is a history of its people, the music, and that they made during the times of change. Um, Bob Dylan said in an interview in 1965 that the world's going to take you, and how seriously you take yourself in the face of that is how seriously you take yourself. That's going to be kind of the theme of this month while we're doing this distance learning is you're going to have an obstacle. You're going to have to dodge an invisible virus. You've got a country on, debating huge questions about what it means to be an American, whose lives matter, whose lives don't, does it even matter? Should you wear a mask? Yes. Should you not? So, all in the face of that, how seriously you take yourself during this other thing. You have to watch videos and read readings and do forum posts, all in the face of what? An education. How seriously you take that is how seriously you take it. I can tell you now, some of you will never watch another video after I post this. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. So you see my name right here on Mr. Fortune. You can reach me at drew_fortune at uracharter.org. And let's talk about our digital requirements. So we will be online in the first month. You will need to log into Google Classroom once a day. There you will see a message I will post daily in our agenda, learning materials, and assignments. You must respond to that message each day so that I know you are keeping track of what is going on in the class. Some days this will be a simple Google form that says, check, I'm here. Others days it will be a video that you have to respond like 10 out of 10, 7 out of 7, a ranking like that. And it will get more complex the longer we have to stay with this. That's the first digital requirement. Get on a Google Classroom, read the message, respond to it, and do the assignments. I'll make another video in the future about how, as you'll see, how to use Google Classroom. You'll be seeing that next week. So how do you get in contact with me? Email. And we'll talk next week about how to come when we can set up classrooms at school with less than 10. But you may reach out to me at any time through email, which is posted at the top of this document right here. With any questions or concerns you may have about the class and the materials that we are covering. After 7 p.m., do not expect a response until the following morning. So 7 p.m. to 8 a.m., I will not be able to respond to your emails. So make sure you get any pressing questions or concerns in before that time. So we're going to be doing some projects, small projects, daily lectures in forms of videos, discussions, watching videos, watching documentaries. It's about music. So the projects are the driving force of the class. They vary in length and weight, but all are important to the diving into the material. Projects involve planning ahead, collaborating with peers, critically thinking about the issues or issues at hand, and creating a product that drives your learning and the class as a group. We'll also be working on something that I call My Back Pages, taken from a Bob Dylan song in 1964. It's an ongoing project that you will work on throughout the year using a personal composition book. More details to come on that. I'm seeing if we either, depending on if we come back in September, I might change that to a digital. So keep an eye on this section. And then there are tests. You'll have 4 exams throughout the year, the final one being the date of your final exam. Also, more information there. We're just taking it day by day, week by week, month by month. Hopefully by September 4th, we're back in class together. Speaking of American rebels, here we see Dr. Martin Luther King as a 28-year-old. It's a year younger than me. I'm 29 as I'm making this video. being arrested in 1958 for the charge of loitering, later charged for a failure to obey an officer. Think about that. All right, yeah, here we have the great king himself, Elvis Presley, shaking hands with Richard Nixon. This is when he was, um, it's a crazy story, but he became a DEA agent, honorary DEA agent at large. Um, American rebels, both of them, very, very, very different. We'll learn about both these guys throughout the year. So what are we going to learn about in this class? We'll get into that in my later video about why do we study rock and roll. But for the sake of this syllabus, the class is divided into 4 parts. We have what we're going to go over this first couple weeks, which is the birth of rock. Start with the blues and the sound of rural poverty and the sharecropping and racism and anti-racism, the Great Migration that drove Black Americans out of the South into the cities to create what would become as rhythm and blues, the role that the city plays on our consciousness and the role the country plays, the role electricity plays, this concept of modernism, the impact of World War II, gospel music, teenagers, and eventually rock and roll. The birth of rock is like the big bang. It's incredible. So then we'll go into what I call teenage rebellion, which is the immigration culture, girl groups, civil rights, the British invasion, and the appropriation of black and uh, minority cultures for corporate and commercial means. Then we get into transformation, which just frankly starts with Bob Dylan and the role of rock and roll becoming something a little bit more literary. So we'll look at folk music, communism, anti-communism, capitalism, socialism, politics, protest, love, soul, songwriting, Vietnam, the civil rights movement in another perspective. And then we end with fragmentation. So we take this mosaic, or we take this picture, we break it into a mosaic, how it fragments. So we look at genre. So underground, punk, metal, disco, hip hop, the inner city, conservative, liberal, grunge, new wave, and how what rock and roll became. I mean, who I'm listening to right now, Phoebe Bridges, is a good example of this. I don't know if you've heard her new record Punisher, but it is a good example of fragmentation of rock and roll. You know, I hope to hear what you guys are listening to, you folks are listening to as well. So tardies, are there even distance learning tardies? I don't know, so don't worry about that. But definitely look at this section right here. I don't want to see cheating, plagiarism, or falsification. You can we'll read those real quick, including giving or receiving of any unauthorized assistance or unfair advantage on any form of academic work. Plagiarism, this is a big one. Don't copy and paste from Wikipedia when I ask you to write a biography of Son House or Muddy Waters or Chuck Berry. Don't just go writing off Wikipedia. And don't lie. Everything is going to be digitally recorded. There's always a footprint. So don't make up a story about you turn this in. Your dog can't eat your homework when it's on Google Drive. So just be honest. I'm a pretty laid back guy. Distance learning is an experience it's an obstacle, and we'll get through it. So what do you need? Definitely 2 big things. You need an internet connection. This will be impossible without an internet connection, but we'll make it work if you don't. And a computer. You have access to all the knowledge that humans have developed through our story and time. You would think that this could help succeed in a tech-driven classroom. It really could. And you also need curiosity. You will need to come to class every day willing to challenge yourself and find new knowledge. So let's just say it. If you don't like music and you don't like history, this is not the class for you. This is literally a class about music and history, the history of music, the impact of history on music, the impact of music on history. If you don't like those 2 things, you might want to switch out to go to another elective, because this isn't elective. And it's one of the tougher electives in terms of content, because it's very discussion and lecture driven. It's not very hands-on. We're not going to be making rock and roll. We're going to be listening and learning the stories of the people around rock and roll. And from there, build out our scope of music and our view of America. So with this, just remind you that with this video, I want you to complete a quick syllabus survey and make sure that you've read over the document, and it will be as like a little 15-point grade, your first grade. So I hope to get to see you eventually, but right now this will be how we communicate through this little apparatus right here. Hope you all have a good day, stay safe, and please wear your mask.